Welcome into another edition of Laker Connections featuring constant arguments with a side of sports discussions. Once again, I'm Thomas Turgeon.
And I'm Jared Wakefield. Thomas lured me away from Super Dirt Week so we can bring you everything you need to know about Laker sports.
Well, needless to say, we are not ones to dishonor tradition, so let's not make the world go crazy. Jared, let's recap this past week in Laker sports, and needless to say, it was a rather positive one for Oswego State athletics, so take it away.
It was certainly positive for Oswego State volleyball, Thomas, as the Lakers not only won 3 matches, but in sweeping fashion. The Lakers worked the brooms until the bristles fell out at Maxfield Gymnasium on the Buffalo State Bengals and the Fredonia Blue Devils over the weekend. The Lakers then returned for a pink out last night where they swept the Wells Express back to Aurora, New York. Last night's win is the 11th in a row for the Toby Wren squad. Last year, everyone was touting the potential for next year's Lakers squad, Thomas. I think that potential is being realized.
I still believe the Toby Wren's effect is in full force because, I mean, you think about it, it wasn't even close in the Buffalo State game. 2 sets that were 25-18, one that was 25-17, so it wasn't even close. 39 aces and 39 kills for this Lakers team against Buffalo State. Fredonia, a little more competitive, but this is a team that I believe was like 1-11 going into the game against the Lakers. Simplicio, 13 kills. Fiorentine not too far behind her with 12. So this team is on a roll. 11 you mentioned in a row for the Lakers. That's tied now for 4th, I believe, or is knocked out 4th in program history, which was previously set at 9 going into this past weekend. So you look at the Lakers right now, they're rolling. I mean, the club volleyball team was there last night against Wells. It was an electric atmosphere.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a great night for them as well. They had a team in Wells coming in, a non-conference opponent. They were 7-4, I believe, coming in, left 7-5, and Oswego took care of them pretty quick. 25-15 first set. Wells came back in that second set, scared them a little bit, but the Lakers got it done in regulation, 25-23. Last set, 25-16. So Wells really not getting a good opportunity to come at Oswego at all. 38 kills for Oswego as a team, 25 for Wells. 15 aces for Oswego. They were great on the service all day long. Cara Simplicio, 12 kills overall. Just a great team effort overall. McKenna Corbin, 5 of those aces.
Most definitely a dominant performance for the Lakers. But we will keep moving along with some men's soccer where Dan Kane and company went up to the North Country to go bear hunting in Potsdam. They would come back home rather successful, winning by a score of 6-0, which followed into a gritty contest against Geneseo that resulted into a draw by final score of 2-2. Jared, the Lakers have only gotten 1 conference win all season, but out of the 5 they have played, and it's starting to add up, and it's rather concerning.
It is rather concerning, but hey, if you're going to get a conference win, you might as well do it by 6 goals. And take a look at stats here. Andre Bergiuli, he has stepped in for Matt Darpino in net. A 105 goals average against 13 saves on the year, an 813 save percentage. So Bergiuli having a great start to his year. He had a lot of limited experience at the start of the year. He takes over for Darpino. He's been great. Obviously pitched that shutout against Potsdam. Against Geneseo with that tie, he had 5 saves, and one of those non-saves was on a free kick call that a lot of people weren't sure, but that was the way the refs called the game. Geneseo took advantage, and overall, a pretty solid week, at least some improvement. The Lakers going 1-0-1. I don't think you can complain too much. It's not ideal, but it's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction, but you definitely need to look closer towards a positive mindset, and that be winning, because Oswego has struggled to find the win column recently in the SUNYAC. I mean, you talk about Potsdam. It was 1-0 at half. They exploded after that. Shots 10-4 in favor of the Lakers. Geneseo, I was at that game. It was nasty, I tell you what. Except Oswego, they can't keep affording these ties, and they can't keep affording the cards. They had 3 yellow cards against Geneseo. Granted, it's been a tight contest between those 2 teams in the past years, but 12 fouls in that game as well. So you got to keep your composure. And as you mentioned, one of those fouls resulted in being in the back of the net for the Knights.
No, and they can't do that at all. Potsdam, they managed to stay out of the cards, but Potsdam Bears earned a red card, but Oswego, those yellow cards that hurt them, 3 for each team, 3 on Geneseo, 3 on Oswego. But moving over to the turf again, it was a tough week of play for Oswego State field hockey. The Lakers fought the Oneonta Red Dragons all the way into double overtime until the Dragons walked it off just minutes into the second overtime, sinking the Lakers by a score of 2-1. The Lakers then headed to Rochester looking for a rebound win against St. John Fisher, but the Cardinals downed the Lakers by a final score of 2-1 in regulation. Thomas, The canoe is going to have to stay in the boathouse as field hockey was unable to add to a week of wins for Oswego Athletics.
And it's a struggle, too. We go to that Oneonta game, as you see in the highlights there. They just couldn't get anything going in that second half. Bradley Boucher with the only light for the Lakers. 1 goal, 3 shots on net. I mean, at the end of the day, Oswego State just couldn't capitalize in this game. A 2-1 overtime loss, really heartbreaking for them. I mean, they weathered the storm in that second half, but I mean, Oneonta was able to capitalize in overtime. And then you move to St. John Fisher. I mean, this is a team where the Lakers have struggled against Fisher in past years. The Lakers were leading at the half. They had the leads. Literally, history pretty much repeated itself in 2 straight games. You take the lead at the beginning, and then you can't finish in the second half. St. John Fisher struck twice in the first 5 minutes of the second half, and that is not going to win you a contest, whether it be SUNYAC, whether it be non-conference, whether it be playoffs. It's just not going to happen scoring 1 goal a game.
You know, one thing that really hurt Oswego this weekend, especially against Oneonta, was those penalty corners. Oswego had 13 penalty corners and did not convert. Those penalty corners are so huge. They give you a great opportunity right in front of the goalie to try and get a shot off, try to make something happen. And Oswego just unable to do so. They weren't able to do so against St. John Fisher, so they got to get something working.
They got to get something going, but, well, that is going to do it for the past week. But coming up, we will turn the clocks and move to the week ahead for Oswego State Athletics. Don't change that channel. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
Hi, I'm Megan.
And I'm Donna.
And this is the Sunset Show. Grab your low-rise jeans because we're taking it back to the 2000s.
Let's go, girls.
Uggs and low-rise jeans.
Together.
One of the boys. Boy.
Sorry, it's my agent. He told me that you're canceled.
Shebangy, shebangy, shebangy.
Right.
Welcome to the burial ground. Must see also in all of sports entertainment.
Welcome back to the Crown of Lake Show, where we talk about anything and everything going on in our lives and yours.
Well, my birthday was November 13th, so it's been quite some time.
I think at the end we saw him get up.
I get that.
He's a winner, and I did bring you sweater for everyone.
There you go! I know your dreams.
You started the paper throwing, just the immaturity. You lost before you even argued.
Pretty insane that the Clippers, 10 of the last 11 postseasons, they're in there.
Welcome back to Laker Connections here on WTOP 10. Thomas, it was a pretty successful week for the Lakers, but it's about to be SUNYAC season for almost every Oswego team.
Absolutely. It's going to be busy, but you can start off once again.
Without further ado, Bubba, let's see where Oswego State is sailing in the weekend. Back over to you.
All right. So I'm a mess. Let's roll with some women's soccer as the Lakers are playing rather consistent since dropping that loss to Cortland back in September. But coming up is a team they have not beaten in 6 straight in the Plattsburgh Cardinals. And after that, they come back home to take on the Buffalo State Bengals on Wednesday. Jarrett, history on both sides of a streak are up for grabs as Oswego is winning in 4 straight versus the Bengals. What gets flipped and what remains the same?
Right now, Bubba, it's really hard to say. Obviously, Plattsburgh, 6 losses for Oswego. Last 3, 6-1 all-time, 9-17-2. So this Oswego women's team has had a hard time flipping the bird, so to speak. Over in Buffalo, a little bit better, 24-12. 5-5 recently. The Bengals have been getting a little bit better every year, but Oswego 4 straight for the last 4 games. So it really could go either way. Looking at this year, Plattsburgh is 1-3-1 this year in conference. Buff State is 1-2-1, and Oswego is 2-1-1. So Oswego in a bit better position. You know, we have high hopes for this women's soccer team. Oswego 3rd in the SUNYAC in goals for, average 2.56 per game. They're getting shots on net, and they're going in.
They're definitely converting on their opportunities. But the thing is with Plattsburgh, they haven't won in Plattsburgh since 2012. They're 3-8-2 on the road all time against the Cardinals women's soccer program. That's not a good stat line because guess where they're going, Jared? They're going to Plattsburgh. They're not staying here at the Laker Turf. They're going up to North Country, right next to the Ronnie B for men's hockey, soon to be coming around. And they're 3-8-2 on the road all time. That's not a good record. Moving on to Buff State, they have a 4-game win streak. The last game they played, it was 3-0 win, so a definitely dominant performance by the Lakers. But Buffalo State right now, they're also sitting at 6-3-2 overall, 1-2-1 in the conference. So a huge 3 points are on the line next Wednesday, and a huge 3 points are on the line this Saturday against the Cardinals.
And we are certainly in the time of year to talk about playoff season. If the Lakers can win these two, they are in phenomenal shape for the SUNYAC playoffs this coming fall. But it's all SUNYAC here on out for men's soccer. The Lakers return to action at home on Saturday to face the rival Plattsburgh Cardinals in a midday matchup. They'll get a few days off before they're Buffalo-bound on Wednesday, kicking off against the Buffalo State Bengals at 4 p.m. These are some huge games for the Lakers' playoff hopes, Bubba, as these three teams battle for what could be the last SUNYAC playoff spot.
And this is where we also talk about how much those ties are crucial. We look at the game against Geneseo last night. That was a tie. That's not good. Play against Fredonia. That was a tie. They lost to Brockport. They lost to Cortland. The only team they've beaten is Potsdam, and Potsdam's not even the strongest team in the conference. So they need wins. They haven't won since 2008 in regulation against Plattsburgh. Otherwise, it's been in overtime. The last 10, they're 0-8-2. They need this win. The last time out was also a tie, so that doesn't help them even more. That's another 1 point compared to 3 to move up to the standings.
It's almost as bad as a loss. You're losing those 2 points, and for Oswego, a team that went to the SUNYAC championship last year, they could very well be out of the playoffs if they lose one of these games. They've got some really big games coming up. Men's soccer 33-43-7 all-time against Buff State, 3-7 in their last 10, and as you mentioned with Plattsburgh, 0-8-2 for their last 10. 7th in goals against average, 145, so they're doing pretty well defensively, but again, it's almost like the same issue we've seen a few times here. They need to get shots. They need goals now.
They definitely need goals now. A huge guy that was in that was Slayer Bush, and he had 2 goals in the 5-2 win against Buffalo State last year. But we're going to move to McZeel, where the volleyball team is now 1 win away from tying for 3rd place in the program's most consecutive wins column with 12 wins. But the opponents that stand in their way of climbing up the ranks are the Rochester squads in Brockport and Geneseo. This will be a tough ask for the Lakers as they are 8-67 all-time against Brockport alone. Jared, the Toby Renz effect I still think is in play, but this is definitely their biggest challenge so far.
Absolutely. You know, you look at these 11 consecutive wins, and you know, it certainly wasn't easy sledding, but they've had a few softball opponents. Obviously, the Buffalo teams, a little bit of a down year for those volleyball programs, and Wells, a really small private college. You know, they're not going to have the best athletic programs, but they've got huge competition coming up in Brockport and Geneseo, and one of the players they're going to need to rely on there is McKenna Corbin against Wells. 26 assists, 5 aces, and 6 blocks. She has been outrageous stats-wise all year long. Against Fredonia, 25 assists, 2 blocks, 3 aces, 13 digs. She does almost everything but get kills, and she has been that big support role player for Oswego. But I feel like they got a better chance against Geneseo. They're 4-6 their last 10, 19-61 all-time. Geneseo is 6th, fighting for a playoff spot right now. They haven't played a lot of SUNYAC games. Oswego up in the top ranks in some of the SUNYAC standings, 10.79 kills per set and 2.85 service aces. That final stat, they lead the SUNYAC in.
Most definitely. And one of the things that caught my eye is one of the streaks will be broken between Brockport and Oswego. Will Oswego's consecutive win streak stay alive, or will Brockport's undefeated SUNYAC record so far at 3-0 get broken? So those 2 little tidbits that'll be interesting for the Brockport matchup. Geneseo, on the other hand, they haven't won on the road since 2015, and they've lost the last 5. So, like, volleyball-wise, I mean, Oswego needs to get these wins. Geneseo, they've struggled, as you mentioned. They haven't played a lot of conference games. They're 1-2 so far, so they need to come back just as well. But 6-8 so far in the overall play for the Knights. So that's a big deal for the Lakers.
You know, I feel like we've said the Toby Renz effect all night long, but this is the real test for Toby Renz's squad and that volleyball squad. They played well against the conference opponents they need to beat. They beat Plattsburgh and Potsdam last year in what was a down year right at the end of the season, but now Brockport, Geneseo. If they can beat these teams, I think this volleyball team could go really far. But that'll do it for the week ahead. But don't go anywhere as we've traded World in for this season's first Wheelhouse Wire. It's all hockey when we come back on Laker Connections.
The Kind of Late Show with Chloe and Anna. Like licorice, Twizzlers, absolutely nasty.
The thought of turkey is just nauseating.
I think
can't.
you're wrong, is what I think.
You think I'm wrong a lot of times.
I do think you're wrong a lot.
Look at that. It's so sad.
Here's our weather outlets and our social media on Saturday. And that's optional, right?
Welcome back to Laker Connections on WTOP 10, and thank God when I say that it's finally time of the year where the Wheelhouse Wire is back, and we're going to talk about what is going on at the Deb. Jared, men's hockey, let her fly.
Well, we're now just over a week away from the preseason puck drop for the Oswego State Lakers men's hockey program against Stevenson. Head coach Ed Gosek had some big shoes to fill with the loss of Travis Broman and Steven Kozakowski, and this new recruiting class comes with a very high ceiling. 5 new forwards are coming to Oswego, with D1 St. Cloud State transfer Thomas Rocco a highlight. Drake Semrad is the lone D-man joining the team, hailing from the Richmond Generals, one of Broman's former junior teams. Freshman Tendi Calcio joins Oswego after a great season with the Flin Flon Bombers and an invite to the Toronto Maple Leafs development camp. We haven't played a game yet, Thomas, but this new class has Oswego State fans excited.
I completely agree, and you're completely missing the fact that not only did you get one Division I transfer, but you also have another in Daniel Colabufo with coming from Holy Cross in the Atlantic Hockey Division. Regardless of what you look at the recruiting class right there. Cal Shell, 6'3". He's pretty much, if anything, he reminds me exactly of Steven Kozakowski.
It's almost a clone.
Exactly. 41 games played, 2.39 GAA and .923 save percentage with the Flin Flon Bombers of the SJHL. That's the most electric name I've ever heard of. But after that, you look, Brett Fudger coming in at 6'2". He's got some size. But then you also have your smaller guys, Colabufo, Connor Gato at 5'7". He also put in 71 points in 107 games with the Shreveport Mudbugs. Plug Richie Perrant right there because he played for the Mudbugs. Jacob Bradley in the back. I know you're flipping out about that in the null. But Drake Semrad also coming in. This is a guy where I kind of see a Ben Addison, a 5'7" defenseman. He had 15 goals, 18 assists, and 33 points with the Richmond Generals for the USPHL. And as you mentioned, Thomas Rocco coming in from St. Cloud State. That's a competitive division in the NCDC in Division I.
Very, very competitive team for St. Cloud State there. Thomas Rocco coming in from the Aberdeen Wings. 3 years with St. Cloud, played a lot of games there. Won the North American Hockey League Championship with the Aberdeen Wings. 42 points, plus 30 on the year, and 9 playoff points. You want those players in playoff hockey. Oswego, unless something goes horrifically wrong, is going to be playing some kind of playoff hockey come next February and March. So that'll be interesting to see. Daniel Colabufo, he's coming home. He comes home from Holy Cross. He grew up in Camillus, New York. 22 points with the Maryland Black Bears in 2020-2021, 15 games played with Holy Cross.
Absolutely, but that's a big deal for Oswego. But we'll move to women's hockey, where Mark Digby and now new assistant coach Maddie Paul will be welcoming 6 new Lakers into the recruiting class of 2022. The class consists of 6 total players, including 4 forwards, 1 defenseman, and 1 goaltender. Of those 6, 2 are from Division I colleges and 1 from transfer at the Division III level. So, Jared, there's a lot definitely to talk about with this squad and when it comes to recruits and transfers and graduates leaving as well.
There's a whole lot of things going on here. Oswego lost some big defensive key players. They lost Ashlyn McAleer, the A on the sweater, and they obviously lost Philomena Teggart, the captain, and Shine Kennedy, a defenseman. So 2 defensive players to fill in. They get Rhea Zemlak from Calgary, Alberta, a right-handed shooter. 5 points, 36 penalty minutes with Edge School Prep, 13 points in 2019 with Calgary Fire Red. So that's where you're going to fill the defense. And on the forwards ends, big transfer coming in. You have a D1 transfer in Megan Gates, but Kenzie Malone, a D3 player from Augsburg, from Minneapolis, 5'5" righty shooter, 24 points in 25 games last year for Augsburg, plus 9, a proven scorer at the D3 level. Shades of Megan Teachout in ways.
I totally agree with that. And you talk about the transfer from Augsburg University, 25 games played, 13 goals, 11 assists, and 24 points. This is a player where Oswego needs scoring. When we talked about it last year, they were really on the edge of losing some games like Buffalo State and Cortland and Morrisville, rather. I mean, you think about it, they only beat Buffalo State 1-0 and outshot them. I think it was somewhere along the lines of 59-12. So, I mean, she's another player to bring in. You got Kaylin Toddy and Megan Gates as well from Division I, Sacred Heart. And then you also add another goaltender in the mix, so it's definitely going to be interesting for the women's hockey team coming in to this season. So the Lakers have a big test in front of them for this year. So
interesting stuff with Lexi Levy, too. Interesting stat line. 7 games, 438 goals against, 902 save percentage. So making saves, maybe something not working there. She comes to Oswego. But I think that'll do it.
That will do it. That's going to do it for the Laker Wheelhouse Wire. When we come back, Mr. T sits down with us to scream for 5 minutes in Laker Showdown. We'll be right back on W210.
Go. Only on WTOP.
DeCarlo on the rebound! Alex DeCarlo!
Yeah, it's been a wild game so far. A lot of high scoring, so definitely tighten it up and play out that full 60 minutes.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP 10 out on our own Oswego.
Did you hear that Bad Bunny's going to be in Canada over spring break, you know?
I heard that one.
Drink coffee. The week.
Oh, wow.
Roll it.
The kind of late show with Chloe and Anna. Like licorice, Twizzlers, absolutely nasty.
The thought of turkey is just nauseating.
I think you're wrong, is what I think.
You think I'm wrong a lot of time.
I do think you're wrong a lot.
Welcome back to Laker Connections. I'm your moderator, Tommy Tellerino, and it's now time for everyone's favorite segment, Laker Showdown. For those of you that don't know the rules, these two Laker sports enthusiasts will have around 30 seconds each to answer the 3 questions I'm going to ask them. Are you gentlemen ready?
Let's do it.
Let's get into
fly.
it.
Let's get started. The Oswego State women's volleyball team extended their win streak to 11 games with a sweep over Wells College last night. They are now 15-6 on the year and have 3 more SUNYAC matchups on the season. Right now, they are 4-1 in the SUNYAC. With this team on a hot streak, how far can they go in the playoffs? I'll have Bubba start this one out.
All right, this is where I hate to burst the bubble on the tire pump of, 11 straight games now, but I think it's a semifinal. I really don't think it's a championship at this point.
No faith.
It's not the fact that that I don't have faith. It's the fact their opponents in their schedule, in their order right now, they've played the easy teams first, and the tough challenges ahead of them. Brockport lost the last 2. Jenny lost the last 5. New Paltz lost the last 13. Those are the tough teams, not Potsdam, not Fredonia, a team that was 1-11 coming into Magseal, and definitely not Plattsburgh, a team they rolled over to begin the matter. So Oneonta, I mean, is in that schedule, but they're 500 over the last 4 games against the Red Dragons. So it definitely is a tough challenge to ask for, and not even to mention
I want you to go home. I want you to go home after this and build a shrine to Toby Renz and start praying, because compared to where this team was last year, this is a different team. They're going to the championship match against Cortland. Brockport and New Paltz are going to be a challenge, but I'm feeling some magic. This team has played with cohesion that has not been seen in years, nay, I say decades, for the Oswego State volleyball program. J.J. O'Connell, phenomenal coach. I think Toby Renz bringing volleyball into a new era.
I got to agree with Jared on this one. They're on a roll like they're in a canoe right now.
Oh,
I mean,
it's a boat. What do you mean? It's a boat.
They're on a roll right now.
It doesn't roll.
All right.
Doesn't
we'll go
roll.
to the next one. The field hockey team started out strong with a 4-0 record, but they have now fallen to 6-5 on the year, and they are 0-2 in the SUNYAC. This happened to them last year when they started out 4-0, but ended up 2-4 in the conference. Gentlemen, how can the field hockey team not repeat the same mistake this year? Jared, I'll have you start.
Well, you know, this is not a bakery. You got to stop with the turnovers. I mean, this field hockey team, why aren't they shooting? Why are they having a hard time getting in the offensive zone? They're turning the ball over. It's hard to say if you've never been to a field hockey game. A lot of whistles. You can't interfere with other people's sticks. You can't really interfere with the play. It's very clean, as no contact as possible, but the Lakers got a lot of whistles against them in that Oneonta game. It cost them time in the offensive zone, and it put them on the defense and allowed Oneonta to walk right into Erica Shabline's kitchen and start making some pizza.
I mean, pizza, no, but definitely not turnovers. It's shots. You need shots to score, and you need goals to win. And defense may cut it for a little bit, but at the end of the day, when you have 16 shots on goal in your last 4 losses, I'm not a big math guy, and I haven't taken a math class since freshman year, but that's only averaging 4 shots on goal, and that won't cut it. Like, you can't score without shots on goal. The opportunities, they're averaging 14 shots on goal this season, but that was padded at the beginning of the year. They need shots.
I got to go with Bubba on this one.
Thank
I
you.
mean, shots on goal, that's all that matters.
It is.
Last year, the men's hockey team ended with an 18-7-1 record on the year and a loss in the SUNYAC championship to SUNY Geneseo.
Love the ding.
With the losses of key players such as Broman and Kozakowski, can this team win the same number of games from last year, or will they take a hit in the win column this year?
I'm going to go with no. I think it's definitely going to be under because they didn't play Utica last year. I think their schedule's a lot more competitive. 6 now, potentially 7. They've got Elmira, Hobart, Jenny ×2, Wilkes, and Utica. Maybe Adrian if they win, and Adrian wins here in Oswego at the Deb on New Year's Eve. A Christmas miracle came late, I guess. But you're not even including the hiccups that they had last year. Cortland games, the Fredonia games, it's ridiculous.
All right, listen. I'm not going to go crazy optimistic here. I think they end right around the same, somewhere in the 17, 18, 19 wins bracket. I'll look at the preseason, too. I think they'll win over Carleton Place and Stevenson, but in the SUNYAC, I think they'll sweep Plattsburgh, they'll sweep Potsdam, they'll certainly beat Buff State. Brockport, I think they're a little weaker this year. They'll definitely sweep Morrisville. I think Fredonia's a bit of a trap game this year. Jenny and Cortland will be tough. I still think they sweep Cortland. I think they have a better chance at Geneseo this year than last year. They're going to beat Wilkes at the Skidmore tournament. They're going to beat St. Aslam, and they'll probably win the Plattsburgh tournament. They make the SUNYAC championship and go to the NCAA tournament.
Well, yeah, the Potsdam tournament, because there's no one there. There's no one worth recognizing.
Okay,
there.
and they're going to win it. That's going to add to the win count.
All right.
Gosh.
Jared, those are some bold claims. I got to go with
Oh,
Jared
come
Johnson.
on.
It's legit.
That is a tough
It's
schedule.
Legit.
Oh, come on.
It's legit.
Come on.
That's not a come on. There's 7 of the 25.
They're going. You just said they're going to the Plattsburgh tournament and no one's there. That's 2
No
wins.
one's there, but either
That's
way,
2
I don't care, but that doesn't matter because thank you to our producer, Alex Brooks, director, Jacob Bradley. That's all the time we have for this week on Laker Connections. We'll see you next week for more constant screaming. Thank you very much. Good night.